My name is Devon Stanley. I was a writing consultant and a production assistant on the film that you just watched, Crossing. But tonight, I'm your master of ceremonies, your MC, if you will. I'm excited to be here talking about the movie with the people that made the movie. And now, only half of us are here in person due to, physical factors such as, pandemic. The other half is virtual on Zoom, much like you are right now. But we're all here in spirit. With that, I have several guests here that are really excited to talk about the movie with you. Starting with the star himself, John Prud'homme, who played Tom.
That's right.
Hi, John. How are you tonight?
Great. How are you doing?
You're looking good. I noticed in the film you had much shorter hair. You're looking shaggy, but it gives you, a certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, it's winter time.
It is wintertime. John, I hear this is the first time that you've acted?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. I thought that was a yes or no question, but a pretty much is fine with me. I wouldn't have known, to be honest. A pretty much or a no, I would have thought that you'd acted before. You did really well.
Thank you.
What was it like acting for the first time?
At first, it was really nerve-wracking because I had never really been in front of a camera for a movie. So I thought I had to do everything perfect at the get-go. Turns out I could make as many mistakes as I wanted to. So when I realized that, it was pretty easy.
Would you do it again? Would you act again after this experience?
Yeah, it was super fun. And at times it felt like the pressure was on me being the main character in this movie with no acting experience at all. But when I showed up and I was just surrounded by a bunch of friendly people, my friends, then I had no problem. So yeah, I'd definitely do it again.
So a little different than Hollywood. You might not have tons of friends in Hollywood, but here in New Hampshire, the movie scene is pretty cool. So getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, John, you're a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, always laughing and joking. Yet your character in the movie was the eternal sad boy. Tom was sad almost the whole time. How did you do that? How did you become a sad character?
I'll be honest, it was very tough, especially with a camera in my face the whole time, which I wasn't used to. I think reading through the script and just getting a feel for each character made it easier for me to take on what it meant to be Tom, the sad boy.
Did you channel anything specifically? Is there something in your past that you drew upon? Or maybe we don't want to go too deep, this isn't therapy. Was there a person that you modeled your behavior after?
No, I can't say that I quite channeled any inner sad boy of myself. I just kind of, acted sad the best that I could. And it came out okay, I think.
I think it came out really well. Don't sell yourself short. Okay. Well, thank you, John. Thank you for sitting and talking to us. Thank you for starring in a movie. We look forward to watching your career flourish over the next 100 years. I don't know, modern medicine.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we're going to jump over to the virtual realm, the Matrix, if you will, and talk to another star of the film, Rachel, who played Beth. Beth was Tom's sister. Rachel, how are you tonight?
I'm good. This is a really fun Friday night compared to all of our pandemic boring nights. So thank you, Rob, for putting a little excitement in our routine.
Yes. Thank you, Rob. What a guy. I hear this is also your first time acting?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, that's incorrect. When I was 10, I played the sheep in Charlotte's Web at the Gunkwit Playhouse. So technically, not my very first time, but first time in a movie.
Okay. And how does this compare to playing the sheep in Charlotte's Web?
This is a role I can relate to a little bit more. than my very steamy hot sheep costume from about 20 years ago. So definitely a big difference for sure.
So you're saying you're more of a sister than a docile, steamy animal?
On most days, yes. Yes, I would say that.
Okay. Good to know. So, in many ways, Rachel, your character is a foil to John's. Like Beth and Tom, they grew up in the same place, they knew the same people, and yet, like, when push came to shove, you chose the path, probably the path more traveled, which is to kind of like stay in your comfort zone, where Tom left for the big city. So what did you do as, an actor to play that part of a person that's, I don't know, stays at the homestead, if you saw the book that you were reading throughout, like, basically the entire movie?
It's interesting. I think that Beth had a little bit more background than I think we're giving her credit for. I see her as a character who has left and come back, and has come back and stayed and really appreciates where she's at now. And I think that's the main difference between her and Tom, because Tom, just really wants to get away and doesn't know, what he has at home. Whereas Beth, I think, has done that, has found herself, has come back, has kind of settled in where she is and is confident and more secure than Tom is. And I can kind of relate to that because I've done that myself. I've lived abroad and I've come back home, and I know what it means to kind of appreciate what you have at home only because you've left and come back. And I don't know why I'm picturing that that's what Beth did. I don't know if that's what Rob had in mind, but for some odd reason, I am picturing that Beth has left and has come back and just really appreciates where she is and is hoping that Tom can kind of make that step as well.
Wow, that was really well said, Rachel. That adds a whole new layer to the movie, because, watching it, I was going through it, like, with Tom, because he's the main character, and when he looks at Beth, he sees someone who, like, stayed back. Tom he has the line where he's like, hey, I had that super expensive car. In the movie, it was actually just a Honda Civic. But, like, he talks as if he's better than everybody else, that he's seen more than everybody else. So this interpretation of Beth choosing to be where she is rather than, like, just being complacent is really interesting. That's really cool. Now I need to watch it again, and now I need to watch your performance again. There's so much to unpack there. Did you draw your inspiration from anywhere? Your inspiration as Beth as, like, a person or as a sister to Tom?
I'm a big sister. I have a little brother, and I definitely see myself in that kind of role that I was describing. Like, I've left and I've come back, and I have that appreciation for where I'm from, and I kind of foster that relationship with my brother and try to kind of give him advice where I can and help him grow and also help him appreciate where he's from. So I think that was kind of my main inspiration, of just being that solid rock of a figure who's always there, maybe who wasn't always there in the past, but has come back to be even stronger than she was before in this person's life, and that hopefully, as siblings, we can grow and become stronger. I know that my brother and I have a great relationship, and, it grows stronger every day. So that's definitely my inspiration from the big sister part of this role.
It's good to know that your real brother is a little bit more appreciative than Tom was in the movie. Speaking of which, I do have a final question for you. How did it feel to give John a good slap?
Exhilarating. I'm sorry, John. It was It was really one of the most amazing experiences of my life because I don't think I'm ever going to slap anyone ever again in my life. So thank you for being the canvas for my beautiful slap. It probably will never happen again. It was really exhilarating. I made Rob play it like 10 times over on loop so I could hear the sound again. I was really proud of it. So yeah, what a unique experience. I don't think I'll ever get that again. Thank you very much. And I hope we don't have to do it again, but if we do, at least I've practiced now, so we don't have to do 12 takes.
Well, thank you for the interview, but thank you even more for the slap.
Happy to do my part.
And I'm actually getting a word from our producers right now. They're talking in my ear. I got a little bit in here. And apparently there's like an alternate cut of that scene that is going to be played, like a sneak peek, a first look right here, right now.
So a quick introduction. So that was day 2. You were there for that day, and it was late at night because we were shooting all the night stuff that particular day. So it was late at night. I want to say it was shortly after midnight when we finally wrapped. And that particular scene 12, the with the slap, was the final scene we were doing that day. So we kind of worked up to it, and I recall that the very first time we rehearsed it, there were no cameras going, and Rachel gave him a nice slap, and it sounded great, and it looked great, and so we should have had cameras on it. And John made the mistake of saying that didn't hurt very much. And then, of course, the first time we actually shoot it, she just goes for it.
Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. So we that was kind of the how we built up to this. So we shot it a few times, and we had to reshoot it a few times, and finally we got it, and we got a version that we were very happy with. I don't think anybody felt the need to do it again. And I think it was actually Rachel that said, what if we shot it this way? And it's something that I never thought of. Personally, I think it does add a lot to the scene. I think it adds a really new dynamic to it. So it's 12:15 in the morning. We're all exhausted. We're all tired, and we finally just said, let's just do it this way. If we don't do it right now, we'll never do it. So let's just try it this way, and we'll see what happens. I gave Rachel one piece of direction. I gave John one piece of direction, and I said, let's just go for it and see what happens. And this is what they gave us.
Well, let's see it.
Hey. Are you okay?
Yeah, fine.
How was the service?
Also fine.
Tom?
What?
Are you okay?
I said I'm fine.
Are you drunk?
Beth, what part of fuck off do you not understand?
You didn't say fuck off. You said I'm fine. I'm sorry for caring about my little brother. Give me your keys!
I'm not giving you my keys.
You'll get them back in the morning.
Have you seen my car? Do you know how much it costs? You take my keys. I can start it with my phone. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I am pretty fucking smart, and I'm sure I could figure out how to hotwire it. So I don't need you pretending to be my goddamn mother just because you're
work on everyone else. I know that's not the line. But I've known you too long. Sleep it off.
So Crossing's going to become a stage musical now. Absolutely.
But you guys really took it.
You guys really, that was awesome.
Sorry.
Give me your keys.
I wasn't even close to his face. I'm sorry.
So good. That was great. My favorite. That was a more organic laugh than the first one.
Well, that was fun. A whole new layer. You saw one version of the movie. We're getting deeper. It's like onions, layers and layers in this movie. You didn't even know when you came to this was what was going to happen. Anyway, anywhom. Speaking of who are we going to talk to next? Ryan, can you hear me, buddy?
Hey, I hear ya.
Hey, long time no see, friend. I really dug your performance. I need to get that out of the way. I
Thanks, man.
thought you were awesome. You were only in it for a little while, but you got chops.
Thanks so much.
No problem. For those of you listening, watching at home, Rob every week on his Facebook was posting like weekly, updates leading up to the release of the movie, and I was following those. And Ryan, in yours, it said that after filming, like you just said, "All right, Rob, there you go," and you haven't seen anything. Like you didn't look at anything during production, post-production, and you're seeing everything like for the first time tonight watching the movie. Is this true?
Well, almost true. I wasn't involved in post-production that much. We did do a little bit of redubbing for the audio, but really besides that, no, this was, all new to me, so I loved seeing it.
I really respect that. That's really cool to like leave it all out there and then just like put it in Rob's hands and wait to watch it with everybody else. I think that's really cool. Yeah. So what was it like having not seen any seeing very minimal, let's say, post-production. What was it like seeing yourself on the screen?
Yeah, no, I loved it. I really had a great time shooting when we shot that scene. The setting was just beautiful. And another thing that we didn't plan was the fact that it was raining, but the rain actually ended up working out pretty well for the part of the scene that it was kind of brought a little bit of ambiance there for that part. But I really enjoyed seeing it. It was great to act with John. John and I have been best friends forever, so it was a real pleasure.
How wholesome. Two buddies on screen yelling at each other and then ending up sharing a drink. A lot happened in that scene.
That's right.
And you're right about like how beautiful it looked, like the dichotomy between like the present day really drab colors and the past, which like bright and vibrant. All of the stuff on the lake, I assume you shot all of that kind of during the same day on the lake. There was the scene with Tom and Alison, the scene with you and Tom, like all that lake stuff was awesome. I'll ask you the same question that I asked everybody else, because this is what fascinates me as, an enthusiast of film is,
Sure.
What inspiration did you draw on to be this, like this wounded older brother? You're wounded because you lost your twin, but also you're angry at someone who used to be your friend. Where did that come from? Where did you pull from?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, I knew going into it, reading the script, I was only in the one scene. So I felt like I could really just dive deep into it and just make that scene a performance as good as I could get it. So I actually wrote out a backstory for Jacob, the character, and came up with what was going through his mind, what happened beforehand, as well as just what his thought process was and how he was raised. And so just put a little bit on paper, and giving him the backstory just kind of fleshed out the character a lot. So
Awesome. Would you do it again? You're gonna be in Rob's next film?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Rob is a great director and another great friend, and so I'm excited to see what he's doing next. He hasn't told me what he's doing. I have like hints of like what it might be. He's told me a little snippets, but I'm excited to see how it all comes together too.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Can I just add a little bit to Ryan?
Yeah? Do you want me to like set you up?
Yeah, sure.
How do you want me to set you up?
I
don't know where you're going with this.
That's your fucking job.
That's true. Right,
I'm done directing, dude.
We're keeping that. So like, oh, thanks, Ryan. And we all said, thanks. But Ryan, before I let you go, I'm getting like hand motions. I'm getting like laser eyes coming at me from the director, Rob. He wants to add a little bit. Rob, what's up?
I was just gonna add that. So Ryan wrote this whole encyclopedia about his character, from friggin' birth all the way up to the moment that he walks onto set. But it was interesting because when he did that, Ryan's on set for one day, right? Ryan was on set for a couple more days, but he was on set as an actor for one day, and he did all of this, and then this was a very small cast. This was 4 people, and even among these 4 people, Ryan does this entire backstory. But Ryan's process, that was what he needed, and so that was sort of me learning how to best direct Ryan, which is very different from learning how to direct Eleanor, or learning how to direct John, learning how to direct Rachel. So it was an interesting challenge for me because Rachel would show up to set and just kind of go with the flow, and we'll try it like 10 different ways, and we'll say, yeah, maybe one of these will work, maybe one of these will work. And with Ryan, it was, very kind of almost by the book. So neither way is incorrect, neither way is wrong. So it was a very interesting challenge for me, and I think probably for you to some extent too, because you're working with 3 very different actors who are approaching their roles and their scenes very, very differently.
Yeah, a bit. It was fun though. It kept things interesting for sure.
Probably more fun for you. It's just more of a challenge for me, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that you put Rob through the paces, Ryan. We can't let him get too comfortable. Gotta keep
Oh
going.
yeah, of course. Hey, always gotta throw Rob a challenge, but nah, he can face it. He's good with challenges.
Very true. I love it. All right. So we are down to the last actor, but certainly not the least. Eleanor, your character of Alison is not in most of the film.
It's true.
However, her mystique, the consequences of her actions pervade every single second. They pervade before, during, and after the film. How did you use your, 3 minutes of screen time to convey that much gravity?
I don't know, just really tapping into who Alison is, and what she wants as like a person. She wants to be with John's character Tom so much, but she obviously knows that they have this expiration date, and sort of like having that layer through every scene that I had with him, knowing like this is really fun right now, but it's going to end at some point, and sort of just keeping that in the back of my mind sort of helped me portray that part of her. But really, I think a lot of Alison's mystique doesn't even come from me in the film. It comes from like all of the conversations about her, all of Tom's like moments alone thinking about her. So it was difficult only having a short amount of time, but it definitely couldn't have come out the way that it had without John's beautiful performance and everyone else involved.
Do you feel after seeing the film that you were successful in your mission to like convey so much, importance?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She was very, very successful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so there are some things that I might have done differently now seeing it. But I think overall, yeah.
So, like, going off of that perfectionist nature, I understand that I've talked to a bunch of, I don't know, new actors today, but you're like a veteran actor. You've been around the block. You've been on the scene. You've been in Kevin Hart movies and stuff. How does Rob compare to Kevin Hart?
Well,
Oh, man.
I will have to say this project I think was like one of the best organized that I worked on. It, like, it's like kind of sad, but it's really rare to find directors, I feel, that really put thought into like, this is how I want the shot to look beforehand. Just in my experience, I'm sure like higher level productions you get more like pre-planning, but in a lot of the projects that I've worked on, it's sort of been like let's bring out the camera and see what we get today. But Rob was not like that at all. He like had a vision for this from the beginning, and that was really refreshing and made the project like really, really easy.
Yeah, I mean, after knowing Rob for like 4 or 5 years, he's methodical, he's fastidious. If you ask him something, you know you're getting at least 2 pages of a response. He thinks everything out. What do you want? What do you want for pizza, Rob? Boom. He's handing you some Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities, Tale of Two Pizzas.
Ryan gives you an encyclopedia, though, so
You guys are made for each other.
that's
Perfect collaboration.
And then there's John, who it literally said earlier tonight, he only reads half my texts and shows up, a half hour late.
I'm in for the ride. I'm not the captain here.
A sentence, maybe 2 sentences.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. We had to give John earlier call times, so we told him 8:30, so he'd be here, and that was how that worked.
One of those.
It worked.
It worked.
He really
It worked.
thought
Hey, we made a
everything.
movie, so
These guys know me well.
Yeah. Rob and I both keep them on schedule. We keep them on track.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your
No, that's
time
fine.
here.
Well, that's really all of my questions for you for now, but I do look forward to whatever you have in store next. I don't know, maybe a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie or something. I don't know. Kevin Hart and Dwayne, I think they're...
Have they ever done a movie together?
I don't watch movies. I don't know.
They have.
If they did, that would be quite an intelligent feature.
Brother. Well, thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Tanner, who is live via Zoom. He is our wonderful art director. Tanner, before I even ask you any questions, can you describe what an art director is for the people at home who might not be so hip to the movie lingo?
Yeah, so, well, to be honest, so I have, prior to working with Rob, I had 0 experience, working in movies. And so I really didn't know what it was either until he told me. And basically the description that he gave me when I started up was that I was to make sure that the sets and that the actors looked the way that they should before he calls action. So that's sort of what I was responsible for. So I was involved in most of the scenes that were shot and that we saw today.
Okay, I was on set, so I was, watching you, not like watching you, but I was, observing the scene, and I felt like you did a lot more. I feel like you're almost selling yourself short with that description. You were doing so much. But thank you for the definition. I guess my question now is, what contribution are you most proud of out of all the things that you did?
Yeah, so I think on the more serious note, I think that my favorite contribution was me and on the very first day. It was less art director but more production assistant at this point. But we were trying to get this shot done through the car where Tom is outside of that church, and me and Rob had to coordinate a handoff of one of the cameras, or the camera that we were using, and we were trying to get the smoothest shot that we could, and it came out so well. And we worked on that for quite a while. We had to have poor John drive back and forth through the church parking lot like 10 times to get that right. But I think it came out really good. And it looks great. But on a less serious note, my favorite contribution was the blooper and also being the ghost of Crossing.
and many reflections of windows and the pantry and other things.
If the people look closely, do they see your reflection in many frames of this film?
I think so. I think maybe. I don't know. Rob's a good editor, though. I'm sure he got me out, but I might be in there somewhere.
I think we got his head out for most of it. I think there was like your hand or maybe your wrist whenever you were holding the camera might have been in there at some point. But yeah.
If we look closely, Tanner, for that really difficult shot of the camera like moving through the car away from the church, are you hiding in the backseat of the car?
Actually, well, we had to, the first couple of times we shot it, you could see me in the back of the car, but eventually we used, I think a pillow to cover me, if I remember correctly. And, if you look back at it now, because we did look back at it frame by frame many times together, you can't see me. Although Rob did initially think my arm was caught in the shot, but it actually was John's arm, so we made out clean on that one.
Yes.
Nice. And of the whole film, what do you think was the most difficult moment that you had?
Well, I think maybe not the most difficult moment that I personally had, but it was definitely the longest day. Was the first day of filming where I think we were all out together for, I think it was like 13 or 14 hours, like from the beginning of the day all the way out to the end of the day. And I think just like a lot of things, Rob kept on telling me not to jinx it, but so many things really just like fell in place that day. We had the shooting of that opening scene where Tom is driving into Crossing. And we really had to luck out with getting there no other traffic on the road to really, accentuate the fact that there's not many people that live in Crossing, and, just getting that lone car driving through. And it's a fairly busy road right there. And, we really just nailed it. I think that, we really got that shot down well. And then the coming home, watching Tom drive into the parking lot, or the driveway rather. I mean, that took a lot of coordination. I think there was at least 7 or 8 people, working on that shot between driving, holding the camera, switching off the camera, jumping out of a car. Not things that I did personally, but things that, I think as a team were probably some of the most difficult. Plus, we were all tired from being up all day, but yeah, it was good. It was rewarding because it all came out really well, I think.
Cool. Well, thank you, Tanner. I know that just being on set a few times, Rob couldn't have done it without you, so we all thank you. And that shot that you're talking about, the one where he's pulling in, I actually think that we have a little bit of footage from that, a little behind the scenes. Am I right?
Yeah, just because it was such a complicated thing, we had some alternate angles that we kind of had from that. So this isn't a comedic video, but this is just a little kind of a 2-minute video, just 2 or 3 minutes, just to kind of explain how we shot that particular shot. And there was a lot of prep work that went into it. So just wanted to give some credit to a couple of people whose names are just in the credits there. Very very briefly, they did a lot of work to make sure that shot happened safely, and that we got it correctly. So I wanted to kind of spotlight them for a second.
Cool. All right, let's take a look.
I am recording.
There's a fairly complicated shot right at the beginning of the film where we transition from a moving camera on the back of an SUV to a walking camera operator on the road and into the yard. What you're seeing on camera is actually a fairly smooth transition, but a lot of work went into designing and executing the shot, so I wanted to take a moment and dive into exactly how we managed it. Essentially, we had a camera operator named AJ sitting on the edge of an SUV's open hatch. And we had another guy named Jacob sitting right behind him, basically holding on to him since there were no seatbelts. We tracked the car up the road, and then AJ stepped out and continued filming on foot.
All right, yeah, we're good.
I believe we're good.
Yeah, but he's way far away now, but he'll catch up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure he's gonna catch up.
Obviously, when you've got a risky element to the production, you want to rehearse it extensively. We knew the final version of the shot would be at nighttime, but we had Ryan, our driver, and AJ and Jacob start working on this shot when it was still light out, so we could see what worked and what didn't, and make corrections when it was still relatively easy to do so.
All right,
I think we're good now, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep.
It did not always work out as planned. We were using a gimbal, which is a motorized arm, to support the camera, but we'd been using that gimbal all day, and it began to overheat toward the end of this shoot.
Aww.
What just happened?
The gimbal fucking overheated again.
Oh.
The gimbal overheated again.
Okay. Oh no. You gotta be kidding me.
But in the end, we were able to film what we needed to film. No one was injured, and I think we were all impressed by what we were able to accomplish with as small a crew as we had.
Next up, we have the actually the only person in this whole thing that I've never met in my whole life. So this is, well, actually there are two people here, right? There's Nick and Eric.
Yes, hello.
Hello, nice to meet you, friends. I'm
Devon.
Nice to meet you. So, in my experience, being somebody who watches film and likes to talk about film way too much, the composer is kind of like a thankless job. I mean, people always talk about actors and plots, but if you were to watch a movie without the score, it would be painfully incomplete. Like all the emotional moments would just miss. All of the exciting moments would fall flat. So I just want to say thank you for composing the film, and then ask, is this your first time composing a film?
Oh well, I guess I should lead with you're welcome. It is my first time composing a full score for a film. Rob approached me about it, and he said, I know that you've, actually, I think I'm the only person that has musical experience that Rob knows personally. So he came to me and said, hey, would you be willing to compose for this short film that I've written already? And I said, yeah, sure. I think I was one of the first people he officially brought on.
Cool. So for people out there that don't know how it works, could the two of you talk to us a little bit about the recording process?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk about that. So when Nick sent me the score, basically I already have my little studio set up for recording. So my keyboard is there, hooked up to my computer, and honestly I didn't really practice a lot of your tunes a lot, so I just sort of went with it, but I had it all hooked up to Logic, and I've been doing so much recording lately that I've been getting really used to editing and mixing and equalizing. So I would play through a song. Sometimes I would just do it separately, left hand, right hand. It's all piano music, except for one track has a guitar as well. But I might record left hand, right hand, and some of the music he wrote actually has multiple staffs. So I think he originally wrote it for several instruments.
I did. Actually, we had originally foreseen this being full orchestra, but then when COVID struck, we determined that it would make more sense to just have one person, or as close to one person as possible, record the entire score. So I had to rework the score basically from scratch, but with my ideas that I had already come up with in mind, and rework it for one instrument. And actually I should mention, he did mention the guitar. Jeremy Quick recorded the guitar for that one track, but he couldn't be here, so thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy.
So what that looked like for me is taking all these different lines and just overdubbing whenever I could and making that fit for what he wanted. So that was a really cool process for me to make that work.
So did you take it scene by scene, watch it silently, and put it over that, or did you already have a bunch of ideas in your head? Where does that start?
Yeah, so actually, I started composing the score months before anything was shot, months before anyone was even cast for any roles. A few big rewrites in the script, but besides that, yes, I did most of the writing of the score before seeing any of the film. And what that looked like was a lot of very long phone conversations with Rob, where we went back and forth on many very, very, very specific ideas, and then very broad ideas, going back and forth on, well, what should be the general tone of this scene? What is the tone coming from in the previous scene? and what little details do we want to highlight, and stuff like that. So we went all over the map in terms of coming up with ideas over the phone.
So from my perspective, a lot of these phone calls with Nick were, some of them were, like 2 hours long. We just like get to talking about it and we just run with it. But from my perspective, it was so Nick would, so he'd be at a piano and he'd call me and he'd say, all right, so here's what I'm thinking for this particular scene. And he'd play something for me and then he'd say, but we could also do it this way. And from my perspective, then he'd play something that sounded exactly the same. And I would be like, all right, was it the beginning that was different? He's like, no, it was just the last note. I was like, oh, of course. So we'd go through a lot of that, and then there were also a lot of times when, he would say, all right, so we might do this scene this way, and he'd play something, and then or we could do it this way, and he'd play me something totally different, and I'd think about it, and I'd be like, I think the first version is the better version, and right as I'm saying that, he's like, yeah, so we're gonna go with the second version because that's the better version. I'm like, all right, do I need to be here for this conversation anymore? But yeah, throughout this entire process, we talked a lot about it. We had a few different composers whose names kind of came up throughout the conversation, many conversations, and we had a few different kind of emotional beats we were trying to hit. It certainly changed when we realized it was going to be just piano, but luckily piano was always kind of at the core of the score. So yeah, hearing all of it, for the first time, especially, and then once Eric came on board and he did, he played every note on piano, and it's absolutely beautiful. So once I finally heard that and I started to drop it into the film, it was a really amazing kind of moment for me, just to see it all and hear it all come together.
Wow, cool. And I know the two of you said that you majored in music. Did you do this as just like a hobby thing like the rest of us, or do you work in music full time? Can we find you on iTunes, Spotify? I don't know.
Well, for me personally, so I have 2 music degrees, my undergrad in music education and my master's in bassoon performance, actually, and we didn't really get to hear or see any bassoon playing in this score. Maybe the next one. But composing for me has mostly been a hobby. I didn't learn composition formally, besides the theory classes that you get from normal music education. But I can't speak for Eric, so.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that Nick didn't do formal theory, and I was a theory and composition major, and I played piano in my undergrad, and now I'm doing a master's in vocal jazz studies, so kind of a little bit different. But I do music semi full-time, especially before I moved here. I do a lot of arranging for a cappella groups and for vocal jazz groups, and I've got over 40 pieces published now online, so I am sort of building somewhat of a library of stuff, and I'm hoping to do more teaching in the future.
I guess it should be said, yes, I do music full-time. I didn't quite answer your question. I just don't compose music full-time.
Got it. Cool. Well, shout out to 2 people who have dabbled a little bit in education. As an educator myself, got to give you the shout out. And then I really enjoyed the score. Thank you for talking.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have the writer, the director, the cameraman, our fearless leader, and just, a good friend, Rob Maynard. Hey, Rob.
How's it going?
Well, we've been here for 15 hours, but I think it's going pretty well. So, on top of writing, directing, planning, texting, calling Nick for hours at a time, gathering the troops, ordering pizzas, making chicken fingers, you make movies. Why? This is the 2nd movie I've seen you make, and it's like the 5th script I've seen you write. Where does all this come from? You got to have a time turner or something to be able to work a job and make all these movies. Why do you do it?
I don't know. No, it's a weird hobby, to say the least, and it's a very often fruitless hobby. You said it kind of perfectly there. I've written probably close to 10 scripts in my life of varying lengths and different types of films, different genres, and I've made 2. My team and I are always able to accomplish very different teams, for the film I made in college, and then this film here. Very almost entirely different teams, but I'm still always very, very proud of what the team is able to accomplish, and that, I guess, that to me is what it's really all about. It's a little bit awkward in a year dominated by COVID, but I love getting people together and saying, all right, we in some cases we don't even know each other that well, but we have this common goal of trying to tell a story, and we're going to tell just a tiny piece of the story over the next hour. We're going to focus on this 10-second clip for the next hour. And sometimes it works out great, and other times you're there for 4 hours, but by the time you hit the end of it, I think, like Tanner said, actually, we were kind of riding high at the end of that first day, because suffice it to say, everything did actually go better than planned. And that's not something that you see very often. And that's due in no small part to just everybody who was there, and everybody who wasn't there. Nick and Rachel wasn't there that first day, but just everybody who was involved in some way just really nailed it. And so I guess that's why I do it, because I like telling stories. I think that film is a great medium through which to tell a story, and because it involves so many different people of so many different talents being able to show their talents very often in a way that they don't get to maybe in their day-to-day lives. John's not an actor, Rachel's not an actress, Eleanor is, but most of the people who did this don't do this as their day job, myself included. So it's great.
So speaking specifically to story, you said this is a great vehicle for telling stories. Other than a few tweaks from your closest confidants, me, you wrote the story by yourself. It's I don't know. It's a powerful story, but it's a very emotional story. Where did this story come from? How did this come to you?
This is becoming a therapy session again.
Yeah, so lie down on the couch. You already have your shoes off.
There we go.
He has his shoes on. Joe Jackson over here.
No, so I think with Crossing in particular, it was, any writer will tell you're a writer, and I'm sure you would agree. There's a little bit of yourself in everything that you write, and sometimes that manifests as like an autobiography. Sometimes it's just kind of you're just putting little bits of yourself or your life or the people that you know into the story. It just sort of felt very natural that you're coming home to kind of mourn a loss, and that does open up a lot of doors that maybe you thought were closed, that you didn't want to open again, but sort of are opened for you. So seeing Jacob was kind of what that manifested as, and sort of being forced to reconcile certain things, and then failing at reconciling, because that's a very natural part of it. To me, when I was writing the script, and you and I had some conversations about this, and I think actually we probably all had conversations, I wanted all of these characters to feel like we're seeing them for a moment in time. We're not introducing them. We're not starting them. This isn't really like an origin of anybody. This is, we're just seeing them for a little slice of their lives. So we don't need to tell you about every single thing they've done. They're just going to talk about their past, because they have these really rich lives, and we just wanted to see it for a moment. Sometimes, as Rachel mentioned, sometimes you don't see very much of it because it's a supporting character. Sometimes, in the case of Ryan, it's written all behind the scenes in a A to Z encyclopedia. And sometimes that also gives way to further stuff. The bit about Jacob being married and having a daughter was not in the original script, but that was something that we added shortly before we shot the scene. We wanted these people to feel like they had lives, and that we're just seeing a little piece of it. So it was very, very different from what I've done before, probably very different from what I'll do in the future. But that's kind of where Crossing came from, and this exploring this very important transition in this young man's life was something that I thought could be a very interesting story.
What I really like about Crossing, that I feel like your other movies or scripts that I've seen didn't really achieve for me personally, is the relatable nature of it. Obviously, or I mean, not obviously, I don't have like an Alison type figure in my life, this like really like tragic loss, but the experience of leaving and coming back and like not seeing old ghosts, because you don't necessarily feel that negatively towards everybody that going back, but like this idea of like you've left and come back to the same place that you've known, but it's a different world now. I really like that. That really spoke to me personally.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be an Alison, too. We've all experienced loss. It doesn't have to be somebody that you loved or that you were in a relationship with. It can just be somebody, a close friend, a family member. We've all had those experiences, and we can all, I think, on some level, kind of sympathize and a little bit with what Tom is going through. The way that he handles it is maybe different from what you might want for somebody. We see Tom constantly, reject people's attempts to be kind to him throughout the film, and so we're almost angry at Tom throughout it, but we certainly, I think, all on some level understand a little bit of what he's going through, and so it just so happened in this case that it was manifesting as a death of his former girlfriend.
Yeah, and we don't all maybe have the literal loss, but like emotionally, like growing detached from people that you cared about when you were living there when you were younger, it, I don't know, fulfills the same sort of void.
I mean, at its core, this is, I think, a little bit of a love letter to home, and not necessarily the physical, geographic location where you grew up, but the idea of thinking about home and thinking about what it was like when you were growing up. I think if we did our jobs correctly, at some point in the movie, everybody will kind of say, "Oh yeah, I remember something like that," or "Yeah, that kind of that rings a bell on some level." And it's going to be different for everybody. It might be these really, really tiny moments. Some of my favorite moments in the film are really just small details. But that's what makes the memory of home and growing up. So revisiting that was a very interesting and very emotional ride, I think, for all of us. And it's something that I at least was very happy to tell a story about, despite it being a sad story.
Yeah, I mean, one small detail in particular, when Rachel decides to go up the stairs, or Beth rather goes up the stairs, and Tom's like, "Your bedroom's over there." She's like, "Not anymore." I've like had that in my own house. I go home and I'm like, "Mom, where's the table?" And she's like, "Oh, like we rearranged everything. Everything is moved." And I'm like, "Ah, but this is my room." And she's like, "Well, you only come home on holidays, so not really anymore." And you're like, "Ah." So I got that one.
Living in your bedroom when it's now a spare room is not an easy thing.
They didn't take down the Slapshot poster, though. Shout out to Paul Newman.
But that's a part of it, it's recognizing that things do change over time.
So I want to pull us back a little. We're getting into the weeds. You and I, when it comes to movies, we could go on for hours. We respect your time. Let's get to the final question. What comes next? What's on the horizon? You've teased us a little bit. I know there might be like a possible next film coming, cinematic universe of sorts.
We're filming this the day after the Disney investor meeting, so that I think everybody's a little bit overloaded in terms of announcements for upcoming cinematic universes. No, I'm not making any Marvel movies, but that'd be cool though. No, I think. And again, you can probably relate to this. You're always writing something. You've always got some idea churning in your head. So I have a story that I've started working on, that I've got an outline for at this point, and I'm excited to really dive into it and start actually writing a script, probably sometime next year. It's a slow process though, and that's by design. It needs to be very methodical and a slow burn is part of the process, unfortunately. But one day, soon-ish, maybe, hopefully in a post-COVID world, we'll get to film something new. And everybody on Zoom, everybody on the couch, on the chair, behind the camera, will be hopefully involved in some way, because this is a fantastic unit. I had such a pleasure working with everybody, and so I'm looking forward to whatever we all get to do next.
Cool. Me too. And for those of you at home, we hope that you tune in to whatever that next thing is. You look up Eleanor's band, I don't know, get Nick a job. He's applying for things. He's doing things. Eric's back. Welcome back. And we thank you for coming, watching the movie tonight, staying after, giving us your questions in the chat, and watching this Q&A. And with that, that is the end of our show. So I thank everybody for watching, and I will see you all when our paths cross again.
Good one.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I need to also record. Oh, I am.
All right.
I'm recording.
Don't mess up, Rob.
I'm so glad I was recording that.
It's important.
Aww.
Yeah, we can do it up to here. Great job. Awesome.
Just kidding. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, one more time. Whew. Patience. Sorry, it's been a rough couple of takes. We had a bee in the car. It was a mess.
She left a message. Shit, she did not leave a message.
All good.
So can I get a...
Good job, John.
Am I in the shot?
A little bit.
Cool. I made it. It's my break. My big break.
Yeah.
Have you seen my car? Do you know how much it costs?
No, I do not know how much it costs.
I will pull up the bill of sale right now.
Sorry.
That bird is carrying a fish. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I just saw him there. I wasn't expecting him to do that. Hey guys.
What's he
The
doing?
worst part is that because I'm not wearing my glasses, my brain was like, is that a person? I don't know how I should react.
What'd you do?
You said plow.
Yeah. Sorry. What happened?
I heard Rob say, "We're all done. It's all done." That's why I started walking.
Can you just hold that real quick?
John is now camera operator 3.
It's good to see you, John. John.
You just wrapped.
Woohoo!
Congratulations. You wrapped production.
Woohoo!
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cut. I think that's a wrap.
Impossible.
That's what you get.
Yikes. We've wrapped?
Yes! It's about time.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome
thank you.
job.
I'm expecting fat stacks.
And we're done with this thing. So, yeah. Cool. We're on to the next one. Except after I edit this first. All right. That's a wrap. John wants me to say that's a wrap. Obviously, that's a wrap. Okay, do you want to direct this? He's like giving me offstage cues.
Cut the video. Don't let go, Jack.
I'll never let go.
That's it. We're done. Get out of here.